Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Torch Snubbers podcast. I'm your host, Colin Connors. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Alicia Garza.
Hello.
Also joining us today, the very beautiful Stephen Lehman.
Oh, thank you, Colin.
The always insightful Alex Cash.
Woo-hoo!
The girl from Canada, Elise Anderson.
Hello.
The man with the 10-year plan, Prince Ty.
Good evening.
And there's someone hiding in the back. I believe it's Ben Mealy. Ben, is that you?
Hi, friends.
All right. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. It is the Survivor Second Chance finale. This season is finally at an end. Well, I don't know why I say finally. This season was absolutely gold. Anyways, it's not just going to be us boring orgers tonight. No. Billy Garcia and Matt Bischoff are going to be coming in a little bit, and they're going to be sharing their thoughts and opinions about this season, next season, and everything in between. And hopefully...
And love.
And hopefully providing us some insights, into some of the more minute details about a Survivor finale. I especially want to hear Matt's thoughts on that. Anyways, in the past, whenever we've had a Survivor finale podcast, we go through and we analyze a lot of the details of gameplay. And most of the time it's who gives a crap what Will did because Mike won, or clearly Krista Cha made a bad move, and stuff like that. So there's not too much stuff in the actual episodes we're going to be dissecting because, frankly, we already know the results. Instead, we're going to be looking at this season more as a whole, like where it fits in the Survivor canon, Survivor history. We're going to be looking at its twist and its overall impact on future seasons. So with all that being said, I'm going to talk with Steven first. All right, Steven, are you there? Are you paying attention?
I'm here.
Okay, so where would you rank this season in all of the Survivor canon? And please, quick and...
Okay, I'd say mid-tier. I don't have a particular season, but I'd say mid-tier. I think I liked it.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, hold on. And I asked you that question first, Steven, because I knew you were going to say that, and I knew you were about to open up a giant can of worms. Alicia, why is Steven so wrong to place this season in the mid-tier category?
Well, first of all, viewers, you can't see my face, but my jaw might be near my toes right now because I am shocked. I thought it was an incredible season, really strong characters, really fantastic story arcs throughout because the season just lended itself to that. Awesome twists, crazy idol plays, crazy tribals, you name it, this season had it. Tears, feel-good moments.
Yeah. And just to save everyone time, is there anyone here who actually agrees with Steven that this is a middle-tier season?
You hear the crickets, right?
Okay, Alex,
I would put it somewhere around 10th.
That's not...
I was going to say top 10 for certain.
That's upper tier.
Just because I'm slightly drunk. So I don't know
but that's
off the top of my head.
middle upper tier.
Okay, that's fair. Middle up tier, but that's still not middle tier. All right, so Steven, I am going to give you a little bit. I want you to justify your decision because I just don't want to poop on you all night. So justify why you think it's a middle tier season and why me and Alicia and America are all wrong.
Like I said, I don't think it's a bad season by any means. I just, from personal preferences, I like some seasons more than it. I think you can argue that there were some dropped storylines, like giving Kelly Wigglesworth 7 episodes straight of no confessionals. Kimmy isn't relevant, despite people saying, she's a threat to the end. I mean, you just have a lot of storylines where I just don't...
And I'm glad you say this. You see this. You see what I'm about to open up. There you go. It's a can of whoop ass.
Yeah.
I really... I'm flabbergasted you would have the gall to even say, this season's mid-tier simply because it has a couple drop storylines, especially compared to all the other seasons in recent history where we've had characters be invisible for, 9, 10, 11, 12 episodes, and especially in recent history, we have stuff like San Juan del Sur where it's only the Josh and Jeremy story. So while this season was far from perfect, to say it's, anything but a top 10 or a top 11 season to me just completely does this season's injustice. Ty, do you want to jump in and defend me?
I will say this. I can understand where Steven's coming from to the degree that, the people I loved throughout the season, Varner, gone early. Wigglesworth, who I was super excited to see back, had a quiet edit. I can understand why certain personal preferences would be, not super in love with the season. That being said, objectively, it was a very exciting season throughout. Even with the predictable ending, which it was, because when Jeremy was not dead after last Tribal Council, it was pretty clear he was going to win.
It wasn't.
Despite the fact that I felt it was either him or Wentworth, and it seems like that's kind of where it was, since,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
like she was the other big jury threat, or at least that's how they framed the episode. But it was a great season, very twisty turny, like Alicia said.
And Elise, you want to jump in real quick?
It's top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a good season overall, but I get Steven's point in the sense that there felt like there could have been so much potential for so much more, and it came down to
Shane
a
Powers.
unanimous vote in the end. So
Y'all are spoiled. Y'all are a spoiled batch of children. Remember the last
I know
time
we
had
are.
a season? Remember the last time we had a season that was, had so much potential? It was Caramone. That was the last time we had a season with this much potential. And oh my goodness, this season was way better than that. I think this season is going to age extremely well. Right now, I would say
I do agree with that.
Kaguyan is the only season in recent memory that holds a candle to this one, and I think it's going to be an interesting back and forth. Alex, I'm going to jump to you, and then we are going to move on to our next question.
All right. Speaking of Kaguyan being a great season and this being a great season, I just have to say that tonight's episode and the Kaguyan merge episode were probably the two best episodes out of the past 5 years. I really enjoyed tonight's finale. And
It was
I
very
think
It did have
that
a really good finale.
really
It was
boosted
finale.
my opinion of the whole season.
Okay, and Ben, I'm going to jump to you real quick because I was also going to send you the next question as well.
Okay. I was just going to completely and utterly disagree with that.
So you don't like
because
the
I didn't-
idea of Kimmy being eliminated by committee? You don't think that's absolutely amazing?
I think that portion was, but I think that the overall composition of the finale was a very flat ending compared to the editing that was done this entire season. We went a total of like almost 60 to 70 minutes on that first vote, and I get it. It was very monumental. It's the first time that's happened in 31 seasons. Yeah. I lost a lot of the logic over the course of the 2 hours that I watched tonight. I couldn't really understand some of the editing decisions, especially with the final tribal council.
Well, and that's going to be a separate topic when we talk about the editing, because obviously it was a 10-0-0 vote. Jeremy blew everything out of the water. But I think that's where we're all going to get into a very heated discussion of what the role of a jury is. But I want to wait until we have some of the more actual Survivor players on before we get to that. But I'm glad you decided to open up that can of worms. Okay. Hold on. All right, do I sound better, guys?
Your video's freezing up a little more too.
Okay. How do I sound right now?
You sound fine.
Slightly better.
now you know
Better.
what it feels like, Colin.
All right. I sound
Damn.
better right now, right?
Yes.
You did.
Okay, what was
Right
the
there,
last
you did.
point where I sounded good? What was it? The last
You
thing I
always
said?
sound good, Colin.
Well, you know what I mean.
God,
You were saying that we were going to get into that, and it's a totally separate topic.
Okay, that's perfect, and that's a good point. But anyways, we are going to totally get into the whole jury, the jury's decision and the role of the jury as we bring on players that are actually in the show, because that is a very heated topic. Because I think I'm going to catch a lot of flack from every single person in this panel about what I think the role of a jury is. Anyways, with that being said, I am going to go ahead and invite Billy Garcia onto the chat. You know, Billy Garcia, Survivor Cook Island, Survivor super fan, and
Elise
giant friend of the
enthusiast.
podcast. So, I'm calling Billy Garcia, but until then, Ben, the first thing I want to talk with you about is this idea of voting blocks, all right? Mm-hmm. We heard it say over and over and over again, this season is completely different than it... Oh, Billy's finally... Hey, Billy,
Hi,
how are
Billy.
you?
Good evening, Billy.
Hello.
Well,
Hi,
Billy,
everyone.
how are
How
you
you
doing
doing?
tonight?
I'm good. Enjoyed the finale.
Yeah.
It was by far the best
Just,
finale of the season.
It was by far the best finale of season time. Thank you, Billy. You kind of joined us mid flow here, so we're actually talking about voting blocks. So I'm gonna let's
Okay.
go ahead and let's talk about it real quick. I was gonna send this to Ben. Ben's hiding in the corner. I don't care about Ben anymore. It's all about you, Billy. Billy, what did you make of this continual talk of voting blocks throughout the whole season? We even saw it, in the reunion. Is that an actual thing, or was it just all hype? And I think you know everyone's opinion here on it, but I want to hear your take on it now that the season has ended.
I'd say it's mostly hype, but not entirely. I do think when you're on the bottom, you're relying on voting blocks. But when you're on the top, it doesn't make sense. And the game is always dictated by the people on the top. So, there's a lot of hype to it. But since there was a lot of people that went from bottom to the top for a while or escaped the bottom, like Kelly Wentworth and Spencer for a while was at the bottom. So you had some people that escaped the bottom. So that's where I think the hype is coming from.
Okay. Well, I guess my question, and anyone can answer this, is Survivor Cagayan. You had the alliance of Tony, Rule, and Trish and Cass. They voted together constantly. There was one or two votes here or there that they were not together in. That was never considered a voting block. This season, you have Tasha, Spencer, and Jeremy voting together in every single vote besides one, and suddenly, oh, everything's voting blocks now. To me, there's a giant gray line, and voting blocks are just temporary alliances. There's no need for this fancy terminology. Does anyone want to comment on that, Alex?
Yes. I'm just gonna say Rob Sesternino and the rest of the Jacare tribe invented the voting block in Amazon. That's just not what they called it. The strategy was about as chaotic back then. There was a lot of flip-flopping that happened then. So it's just a fancy name for something that's been going on for a while. But it's something that kind of got lost from the show for a little bit, and I'm glad it's back.
But I guess, and anyone can answer this, are we going to start seeing the term voting blocks be like common nomenclature in Survivor? Next season is going to be, well, the voting block of Debbie and Tyrell, it was blah, blah, blah. Or are they just going to go back to calling it alliances? And how are we going to, distinguish that line between voting blocks and alliances? Go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to say, this next season was actually filmed before Cambodia. So in terms of canon, we won't have like voting blocks being thrown around because of it. But I definitely think like in future seasons, we could see people throwing the terminology around. I mean, I guess it's nice that we have like a canon term for it, but it's not, I don't think it's anything revolutionary.
I think
it's a block of votes.
I think it's gonna probably continue on. I think terminology is kind of being made up and also borrowed from other shows. Like tonight, we heard a lot about the house and expect the unexpected, which is totally not Survivor terminology. It's in fact Big Brother terminology. So
Tasha being clueless about what show she was on.
Okay, I will say this. I will say this. I don't watch Big Brother, so all of that completely flew over my head. But are we going to start hearing stuff like the weakest link, goodbye, or are we ending it at Big Brother?
Maybe Ann Robinson will come out and just snuff people's torches, because I'd watch that.
Okay, Billy. So we had this cardinal, fantastic moment tonight where the votes got completely negated, first time in Survivor history. Now, when you were playing Survivor Cook Islands, was there any talk of what would happen? Or I just realized this would be completely irrelevant to you because there was never more than one idol hidden. And this goes on to a bigger point I have, Billy. Should they have re-hidden the idol at Final 5? Because it didn't look like they did.
No, I'm glad they didn't re-hide the idol at Final 5. I think we had more than enough idols for the season.
oh yes.
I as far as talk in my season, all the talk from my point of view was Billy needs to go. So that was the only talk.
But was there like a special section of your rulebook, if you remember this, like when you get that Survivor Player Handbook that's like 10,000 pages that no one reads? Was there anything about idols or anything like that?
Yeah, they. I think one time you and I even talked about it. How we talked about
probably really drunk, but go ahead.
Okay, no worries. Me too. Me too, probably. But yeah, we talked about how if one person wears a necklace and two people play an idol at the final 8, and then that would leave one person exposed, and we kind of saw this play out.
Yeah, it was your whole grand plan.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. They kind of fell into it. With me, it would have been on purpose, but yeah, they kind of fell into it, and I would have rather had seen it where instead of it being at the final 5 to happen at the final 8, because you wouldn't have been able to convince that many people to go along with flipping their votes and taking out Kimmy. So it would have been more interesting.
Oh, I agree. But for the ultimate groundbreaking moment that we were shown on television, for me, what was more groundbreaking than the fact that no votes were cast, it was the fact that, Kimmy was eliminated by committee, basically through kind of this weird, stretch of the rules. And do you think other players, and anyone can answer this, are going to try to exploit this going into future seasons? Being like, you don't want to be like Keith or Kimmy, being forced on the out. Or was this just like a random occurrence? Ty, go ahead.
Well, shock of all shocks, that Keith didn't know that he nearly almost voted himself out. Who would
No,
have possibly
I
thought that
know.
Keith would be the one to do such a thing? What a shock. What a shock. Terrible shock. Very, very shocked. To the degree that there's a loophole or whatever the case may be, I'm sure people will try to exploit it because it's another thing that now is out there for people to think about and to plan about. I don't know how often it will come up. It's a really weird situation.
It's really specific.
But it
It
almost
is.
happened in Survivor. Okay, for all you super fans out there, and Alex, you were the one that brought this up to me. This almost happened in Survivor Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm.
At what
So
point?
The final six. It could have been who I believe Dan almost completely got eliminated if because Sash and Chase both played idols, and so if they would have gotten the
Yep.
votes.
So Sash and Chase played idols, and Holly got 1 vote, and if she would have gotten 3, and who was it else? Jane would have gotten 3, then Dan would have been the only one eligible. So this has been out there, but it's not. But it was only in theory. Now it's out there as reality.
Sure.
And I also think it's important that we can now say for certain, one, a hidden immunity idol keeps you safe if there's a complete revote, which that was kind of up in the air. And we can also say that even if you have the hidden immunity idol played on you, you can still actually are part of the discussion that leads to the purple rock. Because I was actually under the impression that if you were immune, you couldn't go home via the rock, but you weren't part of that discussion of who actually does go home. Okay, and I'm glad you like that, Alex, because I actually had a secret master plan to rule Survivor using that, but it turns out I can't use that. So for all of us Survivor super fans, we actually have all of this stuff in the rulebook now of what exactly would happen. But Billy, what I want to ask you is this. Do you think this is going to be the precedent that's set for the next 20 seasons? Or could 3 seasons from now Jeff Probst go, I didn't like that Keith almost got eliminated, so, this has changed now. Like, what do you think is more likely to happen?
Now, they're not going to change it because that's stuff that's been in there that just never came up. But just like the splitting of the votes became such a fad, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing, with the whole multiple idols in play, if this starts becoming a fad where we try to vote people out without having let's say to convince so and so to flip their vote. Now you can do this without flipping people's votes with this approach. So long as you have one person on your side win the individual immunity and a couple of people find idols, you now don't have to flip votes once you get to a certain part of the game. So I expect that in the future.
And I was actually going to say my big master plan, now that it can't happen, was going to be have someone 3 versus 3, have someone in my alliance give someone in the other alliance individual immunity, then play a hidden immunity idol on the other person with individual immunity, and then deadlock the votes between 2 people. So that way, when it came to a discussion, it would only be 2 people in the current alliance, my alliance, that would actually make the decision before you decide whether or not to go to rocks. But sadly, because we now know people that have the idols get to make a decision in this, that can't happen. So I can't break Survivor. Oh no. Anyways, we still have a lot of whole stuff to talk about. Billy,
Sure.
let's talk about some of the twists this season. Did you like the second tribe swap that only lasted 1 round? Because I was a huge opponent of it, and guess what? I still am.
I
don't
think
like
the
tribe
second.
swaps that only last 1 round.
I feel you. I think the tribe swap was designed just to be like taking a stick to a hornet's nest. The whole thing was just to stir things up, to make sure that people didn't that alliances wouldn't happen. This was the whole point that we were talking about a moment ago, where we were saying voting blocks. The voting blocks happened because people were comfortable in their alliance, and then the tribe swap would happen, and they would end up on the bottom, and they would have these temporary alliances. And that's what I think these swaps are meant to do. So if you're into like constantly flip-flopping and people switching their votes, then a swap is good. If you like to see consistency in people's games played, then a swap is bad.
And I feel like that's a very fair assessment. Anyone else, what are your opinions on the whole second tribe swap that only lasts 1 round? Steven, go ahead. And then Ben.
I mean, I thought it was a nice layer to sort of throw like another like, like what's gonna happen if these folks are mixed up again. The frustration that it's only last one round. I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad. We had a 1 round swap in All Stars. We had one in Bone, so it's not like it wasn't unprecedented. But
it's a bad precedent.
Frustration with it, but I liked it.
All right, and then let's go ahead, Ben. You want to say something real quick?
I think me and Stephen are on the same wavelength. I think it's one of those take it or leave it sort of things. Like, ultimately, it was kind of a meh sort of thing, but I think it does better things for the overall game of Survivor because, let's be real, I think we've gotten accustomed to a certain pattern of how the game usually flows in terms of going from tribes to tribes, and I think introducing something like this, bringing it back from All Stars, having 1 round only where there's a tribe swap, it does make people second guess and analyze a little bit more their decision making.
So something we're going to do when we discuss all the twist here, Alex, I am going to get to you real quick. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Because I have a thumbs down for this. Does everyone else have a thumbs up for the tribe swap, the only last 1 round? I'm only looking for a thumbs up. Okay, Alicia's with me. Elise is with me. Okay, so we're kind of pretty split on this. Okay,
I'm with you mainly because I felt bad for all of those people on a.
Can I say why I'm thumbs up?
Okay.
I'm thumbs up in this specific case.
Okay, go ahead, Ty.
Because it saved Abby and it killed Moo.
That's true.
I love Abby so much.
Even as a Wu
Abby's
fan,
amazing.
Wu was out there instead of Shane Powers. He got his comeuppance. Done. Anyway, off my soapbox.
Just wait until it happens and it takes out a player you like. Okay, Alex, real quick. You've been waiting patiently.
I liked it because it set up the 13-person merge twist. If you would have had 14 people with 3 tribes and they didn't switch it up, then people would have been suspicious. To switch it up at 14 into 2 tribes, that follows expectations, and then you immediately toss everything on its head.
Okay, and that's fair, but let's go ahead and let's talk about the 13-person merge tribe. Probst said the only reason we got 13 people in this merge tribe was because it was second chance and that he wanted to give everyone as much face time as possible. Personally, I like merges at 11, 10, 9. I kind of like the later merges. I think 12 is, an okay middle ground, but to me 13 is just way too many. All right, Billy, what's your opinion? 13 too many, too little, depending on the season? What do you think?
I think 13 is too soon. I like 12 if we're looking for a 3-way tie at a final tribal council. 12 is the number. Yeah, I'm a sick bastard like that.
Which we are, because it would be a Survivor first.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would love to.
That's what's next.
So 12 just for that reason. 13. It kind of, if you're gonna have 13, it might as well just get, like, if you start with 18, might as well get everybody in the jury. Because what's the point? At 13 you haven't really seen the people that are gonna be at the end all that much, anyways. So we might as well just get everybody in the jury.
That's fair. Indeed. So, anyways, does anyone else want to? You want to go on, Alex? You want to chime in on this?
13-person merge is good only in a season where everybody's in it to win it and knows what they're doing and came here to play like this. Otherwise, because if you have a 13-person merge and there's a tribe of 7 that pagongs a tribe of 6, that's 6 episodes you're blowing on a pagonging. You cannot have that. So the tribal phase is sort of it protects against it protects against bad merges like that.
So go ahead, real quick, guys. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways on the 13-person merge. Okay, Billy and Elise. Okay, we got a thumbs down. We got a lot of thumbs sideways. Okay, so we are more of a consensus. We don't really like this twist much either. And just like with the previous twist, I think I'm going to be voting on something. I'm building my thesis for a case about this season. All right. The next twist we're going to talk about. Okay. The different looking hidden immunity idols. We finally saw some payoff tonight with that.
Except Keith is stupid and didn't try to use it.
It wouldn't have made a difference.
Gold is
No, but you have to try.
No, see, I disagree. I disagree that it wouldn't have made a difference.
Okay.
As do I.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. I wanted to say real quick, Billy, you missed this, but part of what I said we were doing tonight is we're not analyzing, every little part of this episode because we already know the outcome. But this is something we did want to analyze. So Billy, go ahead. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard, I forget which past survivor said this, but he says you don't want to go down with rounds still in your guns. You want to fire all your bullets, and that was like his last bullet. And instead, he kept it in the gun. He needed to fire it. He needed to do it before the vote. He needed to pull it out and try to leverage somebody.
Okay, Ty, go ahead. And remember, Keith was my winner pick in San Juan del Sur, so be kind of gentle.
I mean, here's the thing. I understand that Keith is not a student of the game, so he didn't realize it. As a viewer, it is frustrating because I know full well it would have worked. Because Spencer is a robot who had to spend all of this season forcing himself to have some feelings, which I can't really throw stones at because I don't feel things either, unless I'm drunk. But the point I'm getting at, Jeremy was already ready to flip on Spencer if it meant he needed to do it to save himself, and I'm sure Spencer would have done the same thing, and Tasha would have expected the unexpected, of course, because she was very relevant this season. But, it would have made a difference. With those two potentially being up against each other, them being Jeremy and Spencer, I feel like it would have made a difference.
And I kind of agree with you, but we're going to talk to Elise and Alicia. Elise, you're first, and then Alicia, you can respond. I'm sorry, the naming is getting a little hard on my tongue. Go ahead. Just talk. Don't let me talk anymore.
Well, I just wanted to say that you have to, it's like Billy and Ty were saying, you have to go for it. Even if you say, oh, well, it wouldn't have worked anyway, you might as well try. There's no downside. He's not going to lose anything if he tries to play the idol and it doesn't work, or he tries to show it off and it doesn't work. And honestly, it might have been the push that Spencer needed to get rid of Jeremy, or the push that Jeremy needed to get rid of Spencer. I guess Jeremy didn't really need it, but...
apparently not, no. And that's another topic of conversation for later.
Mm-hmm. But it could have done something. You have to at least try in that situation. Even if it doesn't work, at least you did your best.
Good point. And Alicia, you wanted to chime in. You wanted to have a little bit of a dialogue.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I disagree with Ty in that I don't think it absolutely would have worked, given that those other three were voting so tightly all the time together throughout the game. However, again, you really just have to go for it. And for Keith's reasoning to be like, oh, I didn't like how gaudy or shiny the idol was, so basically he was kind of embarrassed to even try and play it. Mm-hmm. That's a super shitty logical thought to have. Well, it's not logical.
Because Keith knows what he's doing.
And here's the thing.
Eliza played a fucking stick. She wanted to at least try.
Very good, Elise. But I guess my big thing was, when Keith was volunteering to give away take Kimmy's spot, I was like, he's not that good of a player, but this is why America voted him in. When he refused to play the fake idol, I was like, man, he did not deserve to be there. And I know that sounds really mean, coming from someone who's liked Keith, but that's how I felt. I felt like, you know what, he didn't deserve to be on that second chance. Maybe they should vote for another thing. Ben, go ahead, and then Steve, and then we are going to go ahead and do our thumbs up and thumbs down on this. Ben, go ahead.
But I also think that that's a great kind of like looking back, life's a bitch for Wentworth, because it was it was Wentworth's call as well. She was very strong on keeping Keith instead of Kimmy. If Kimmy had that piece of junk in her hand, boom, to the sky. She'd be passing it off like candy to the jury. She'd be making a scene out of it. It would have been a much bigger deal. That would have been blown up for us. So I think that's also huge, kind of sucks Wentworth, but that could have been your big mistake around before.
But she trusts Keith a lot more than she trusts Kimmy. Kimmy's been with her for a day.
But she was alienated from the three-person alliance. She wasn't going back to that.
Okay. All right, so, okay. We're going to go to Steven real quick and then Ty real quick, but I do want to go ahead and knock this topic out.
You don't have to go to me. I was just thumb-upping everything Ben said.
Okay.
Kimmy is smarter than Keith.
You guys cannot see this. You'll be able to see it next season. More on that later. But Ty looked like one of those conductors guiding a plane with how much he was moving his hands. Either that or like an NFL coach in a fixed Super Bowl game.
I was trying to channel the meth mouth from Orange is the New Black, who does like the whole. That's what I was going for there. Yes.
So I was just gonna say on Kimmy.
Come on, Billy.
Or on Keith. I'm sorry. That I think
Steven.
part of Keith's charm and why I personally would have voted him in is because there is that variety. Like, he's not the brightest bulb in the box. That's part of his charm. I think is that you would need a variety of people. You can't just have people
but Steven,
that are.
Aren't you a Wentworth fan? As a Wentworth fan,
yes, of course.
Okay.
I mean, from all perspectives of it, I would have preferred to keep Kimmy, but I think it probably would have been smarter to keep her. But I understand Wentworth's logic. But I was just going to say when Keith, did that sort of moment of giving up of almost offering to give his spot up for Kimmy, I was just like, this reminded me why I like Keith. I just think he's great.
Okay.
So.
All right, so I am cutting you off, Billy. I'm going to let you chime in, and then we're doing thumbs up and thumbs down on this because this has gone way off the rails, and I need to control it a little bit. Billy, go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say with the reason why I think Wentworth decided to keep Keith is just because Kimmy was a flip-flopper at that point. So who knows if she would have flipped right back over. The fake hidden immunity idol, I think it would have been better served if Wentworth would have kept it and she'd have showed it off and said, you know what, I'm going to play it on Keith. Because she's more the brains. He's more the comedy. So
I hadn't
very
even
fair.
thought about that.
That's a very solid point.
Way better.
And I'm just going to say this real quick. I was planning on making this big deal when we had Matt Bischoff, Billy, and Jimmy T on, which Jimmy T had to cancel for work reasons, and I believe Matt also had to cancel for work reasons. I understand it's late. Normal people that aren't like us have jobs in the morning. But Billy,
I do
this
too.
kind of comment, and you talking about how Jeremy should have put his hand in something glowing in order to get that idol is 100% why you deserve to play again, and you need to be on that Survivor Second Chance ballot. Because you really do have a great understanding of the game. And yes, I am taking this time to talk about how great you are, because we are a bunch of Survivor nerds and fanatics, and you constantly bring in these crazy new ideas. So, very good. Good on you. But now we are going to do thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs middle on whether or not we like the fake idols. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay, so I think that was almost a unanimous thumbs up, and that was the only one so far where it hasn't been a unanimous thumbs down. So now we're going to jump to the next kind of thing this season did differently. And that was having 6 people left at the finale. Do I need to explain why? Because, I mean, yeah, this finale was great, Jeremy, when he's a good winner, but it felt so rushed. Does anyone here have a good defense for why there should be 6 people left at the finale? Okay, Alex, you're playing devil's advocate. You're a brave man. And then Ty, I'm going to go to you. Go ahead, Alex.
All right. First off, I'm not going to say it's 100% positive. What I will say is that it's better than having a day 36 final reward challenge like the last 2 seasons. So it's an improvement in that regard. And also,
I disagree, but go ahead.
And also, it's a good thing simply because it paves the way for, imagine, we have 18 people, 13 episodes, each one of them features one person getting voted off, and then in the finale, final 5 tribal council, final 4 tribal council, final 3 tribal council, the return of the final 2 on day 39. Final 2s for everyone. If that happens, it speaks to my heart.
Okay. But to me, a final 2, the excitement of that isn't worth the justification of rushing the finale episode, which is supposed to be literally the most important episode of the season.
Well,
Ty, go ahead, and then I am going to
The
jump
only
in.
thing they're really
This is
rushing
enough
through
cramming.
is
He
they're
wants
cutting
more
out
cramming
talking to the
of-
audience. They're cutting out talking to the little kids and comparing the average
No, they're
American
not, because that's the
meal
reunion
to the
hour.
bowl
That
of
was
rice.
different. Okay, Ty, go ahead, and then I'm going to talk.
It's a terrible idea most of the time. Situationally, it obviously worked out well because we had the most dramatic tribal council ever this season. So I was fine with it today. On the whole, not loving the idea. I don't know. Shut up so Elise can talk.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Elise.
I wanted to say that normally I think like it would be a really bad idea, and it did kind of suck to rush through because we had such a good first tribal, and then it got really exciting for will it be Kelly or Spencer going. But I think the reason they did it is because I'm guessing that final tribal council was so obvious. Like we know after watching it that Jeremy was unanimously winning. So I can't imagine, like, even Cass didn't really have much to say. So it probably just wasn't very exciting, and they didn't want to give it away that Jeremy was winning so much.
Well, what I'm going to say in retort is that when they film Survivor, they don't really necessarily know each season how many episodes CBS is going to order because it's just like any other TV show. So I think that could also play a part in it, and they don't really know how they're going to plan everything out. Kind of like what I've talked about with, like there's some of the double boot episodes and stuff. When they're filming the show, they don't necessarily know how they're going to have to condense it. But anyways, Billy, you want to chime in real quick?
Yeah, just one sentence. I'm the believer that every episode should be 90 minutes or better. 90 minutes to 2 hours. In that sense, you could squeeze in more double boot episodes, and you wouldn't have to cram in a final 6. So if they were to just go to a 90-minute episode every episode, you'd get a better what's the word I'm looking for? An evened out season without having so much at the very end.
I agree. And here's the thing. I was about to ask whether everyone here agreed on whether or not Survivor should be 90 minutes, but then I realized if someone said no to that, you would be fired from the podcast. So I'm not even going to do that. Okay, Ben,
to be fair,
next.
Criminal Minds is really riveting.
Ben, go ahead.
Can we just call tonight what it was? It was the final 6 episode for an hour, and then 2 votes and a final tribal council for the other episode. Like, that's the thing that bothers me. Like, I get that they're only, like, they could have done another episode that could have been condensed into 2 much easier and had this one be its own episode. Hell, that one could have been 2 hours. Like, I don't understand why it was so crammed the way it was. That's why I was so upset at the beginning of the podcast talking about the editing faux pas that happened tonight.
And you know what? I somewhat agree with that. I will say this right now in the chat box of Skype, everyone's talking smack about Criminal Minds. And all I have to say about Criminal Minds, this is something I've always wanted to point out. All I have to say about Criminal Minds is this. Everyone talks about how like America loves watching Survivor and America loves watching Criminal Minds. Every time I see a preview for that show, it's always like he murders 9 children to eat their brains. Find out, and I'm always like, whoa, who actually watches this kind of show?
By the way, the detective is Greg from Dharma and Greg. How is that believable? It's not.
I don't know what Dharma and Greg is, and I'm okay with that.
Y'all have watched way too much Criminal Minds after Survivor was over instead of coming straight to the podcast. I'm just saying.
I don't watch it because the trailer bothers me because it's like this guy eats and rapes, high school cheerleaders, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this show. Anyways, real quick, thumbs up or thumbs down or thumbs sideways on final 6 in the last episode. Is it a unanimous thumbs down besides Alex Cash and who I'm ignoring?
That's a sideways. It's a half a down.
Half a down.
It's like a 3/4 down.
I would give it a 3/4 as well because it worked tonight.
Wow, we're doing fractions.
It didn't totally work tonight,
I disagree
though.
With that,
exactly, it didn't work tonight.
About it, and we didn't like that a lot of the suspense was taken away. Like, obviously, there wasn't going to be a 2-2 tie at the final 4 vote because there wasn't enough time for a fire starting competition. Because we still had a total FTC and it had to be crammed into like 18 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Was I supposed to believe that
like
Spencer was likable anyway, and that there was no he wasn't going to the end?
There's one more twist we're gonna analyze, and that was.
Colin, stop! I know where you're going with this. Just stop it.
Where am I going?
You're going to say like, look, we hated all the twists, so it's not that great of a season, or something.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna say it's not that great of a season. I'm saying the twists weren't necessary, and that is what I'm coming to the thesis of because. Vote stealing, it did not work. I can see a couple scenarios in which it could work, but I'm not a big fan because to me it doesn't, much like Redemption Island or the Medallion of Power, it just doesn't feel like Survivor. And Billy, do you disagree? What do you think of vote stealing? Is that, true Survivor? Because I don't like it. Why? Why do I feel this way, Billy?
Probably because million of teenage girls were crying that Joe's vote got stolen.
I was,
Wow.
You know,
it was beautiful.
if it would have been somebody we hated, like, well, maybe not hated, but somebody we'd have been okay with, like Abby Maria getting her vote stolen, we'd have been like, greatest twist ever. But it was Joe, so you know. But no,
Okay,
I don't like
but
the
Billy-
twist.
Okay, you don't like twist either. And we've seen the vote steal and we've seen the extra vote. And I don't begrudge Survivor for trying stuff, but much like how they tried Redemption Island twice, can we stop with this vote stuff? Or am I just wishful thinking? Like, are we just going to keep seeing this crap?
I don't know, Colin.
Okay.
I'm really hoping for like 10 Tyler Perry idols to come back next season. So yeah.
Okay, so we need a new co-host because Alicia is now with the Tyler Perry Idols. Ty, you want to jump in, and then we are going to jump to Edwin. Edwin seems to have an opinion about this. Go ahead, Ty.
Basically, it's like I said about the last thing. Final Six is not great normally. Vote stealing is not great normally. I thought in this season it worked because everybody was all paranoid and crazy to begin with. And honestly, I think it blew up Stephen Fishback's game, that he got that power. And all of a sudden he got that power and he's like, oh my God, it's going to be this brilliant thing. I'm finally going to get my white whale. And then he tries to split the vote and he fucks himself. So
Right,
if
and
he
then-
just,
Yeah.
that's my thought.
But see,
It worked okay here. I wouldn't love it
it
everywhere
worked
else.
okay. But I don't want to give the benefit of a doubt to a twist like this, next season. Steven, you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think I'm that for some reason tampering with like voting and the number of votes, all that. That just to me, it bothers me. It doesn't make
It
sense
doesn't
to
feel
me.
like Survivor.
Right. It's just like the point is to like build the society and like within it you have the voting, blah blah blah. So like the alliances and all that is one thing, but stealing votes, it almost feels like it's jumped the shark a bit to say. But I mean, I agree with Ty in that it's situational though. But I also don't
Real
like
quick,
it.
you're apparently boring Alicia because you did just yawn, so I am going to jump to Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
I don't like it, but I think it could have been worse, is what you guys are saying. Like, it could have
Very,
turned
no,
out
I
worse.
think it was the worst. I think why play with the fire? Give the fire back to the gods. That's how I feel. Billy, you, go ahead, jump right on in.
All right, I was just gonna say I would rather see a stealing of hidden immunity idols than a stealing of a vote. That to me is more exciting because people like to bury the idol somewhere, and why isn't that fair game? I technically found it, right? If you bury it somewhere, I technically found it. So why can't we steal the idol? I'd rather see that.
I guess from a production standpoint, that would open up like a very awkward caveat of like, hypothetically, let's say I'm sleeping and I'm holding the idol and you take it from me. Is that fair game? Or let's say I take the idol and I put it inside of my pants and you reach out and get it while I'm sleeping. Is that fair game? Maybe they don't want to go down that kind of a road. Anyways,
If
Alex, you want to jump in real quick?
Sure.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Billy. Go ahead, make your point.
No, I was just gonna say if you're sleeping with the idol, I don't have to steal it. I could just point, like, hey, look, he's got an idol.
He's got an idol or something else. Anyways, Alex, go ahead.
All right. The thing is about the vote steal is that it just added unnecessary complication to what was already a crazy season. And instead of having more talk about advantages, we could have had Kimmy speaking. We could have had Kelly speaking, possibly. And the more idols and the more advantages that are put into the game, the less focus is put on the human element, which they did an admirable job of trying to focus on that this season. But I wish they would have had a little bit more of the on the island interpersonal stuff and a less of the, oh, well, I have a sick relative too.
I agree. Okay, so any final thoughts on vote stealing? We all agree it's awful. Ben, you wanted to go ahead?
I'm just gonna call it what it is. Like I reacted to it. We all play orgs. This was like a 12-year-old hosting his first org, trying to make it more complicated than it is. Trying to add more bullshit to make it more
So for the
interesting.
next season, we're gonna do a thing where for every 3 votes cast against you, you get a rock, and you can play that rock at Tribal Council, and it will nullify 1 vote against you. But if you save up 3 rocks, you can use the rocks, and it gets to the point where you're like, okay, everyone, calm down. And I do agree that it was nice to see the host try to throw all sorts of crazy stuff at these players because this was a great caliber of players. But to me, things like hiding the idols at challenges, which we're not going to vote on because it was an amazing idea, and if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. But it gets to that point where I don't mind that they tried, but let's not try anymore. So, stealing votes, thumbs up, thumbs down, all that other stuff. A unanimous thumbs down. Okay.
And I've been very
So-
generous giving sideways and ups for all these others,
That's
but
true.
this is a down.
Giving some
Yeah, the
sideways.
vote
Alicia pointed
stealing
out,
itself is a down. The trying new things is an up.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we'll all agree on
Yeah.
that. But let's be frank. When me and Billy play on Survivor Second Chance's third iteration, I don't want there to be like these special rocks that we play that nullify votes. Right, Billy?
Definitely. I think when we play, they're probably gonna do like when you pick rocks, they're gonna have the golden rock that you still get voted out, but it'll be worth like $100 grand. So
Or it'll
That
be
would-
a
that would
ticket
eat-
to like the outcast tribe that's waiting to where all the other people that got all the other golden rocks are
And
waiting.
as
They could call it
Alicia-
Rupert's Million.
yeah,
If you find the
exactly.
golden rock, you get Rupert's $1 million from
I like that.
All Stars
As
1 or
Alicia
something like
pointed
that.
out correctly,
love it.
the reason why I had us go through that gambit of twist was to point out that I still think this season was great. I think it'll probably be a top 10, maybe top 11 season. But a lot of the twists they added just seemed to take away from a lot of the interpersonal relationships as other people have hinted on. And so as a kind of thesis for Survivor Second Chance it was a great season that could have been made better with less twist. Bam. Ty, go ahead.
perhaps second chances. We'll get a second chance to fix these problems. Because it was such a successful season.
Yes.
Because we know we're going to get this again at some point.
Oh yeah,
Better.
and there's already the rumor mill is spinning that there's gonna be like a voted on for heroes versus villains and all that jazz. We'll see. I don't necessarily know if they would vote for heroes versus villains, but fans are voting again. America's voting again. We're gonna see second chances again. But Billy, I believe you had something you wanted to say.
Get Shane Powers on the island, for God's sake.
Yes.
Shane's not coming.
Yeah, I have a minor rant about how much they crammed into this season, and they crammed so much that we didn't get to hear like an opening statement at all from the final three. After all this talk about what are you gonna say with your opening statement when you get to the final three? I mean, they set it up and then nothing happened. They didn't say anything, so that totally blows. I was upset about that.
Okay. Steven and then Ty.
I was just going to say, I know it's been a tradition recently. I know at least in Worlds Apart, they didn't actually give opening statements. And I think that might be the case now in that they're just literally not giving opening statements. But I could be wrong on that.
Okay, fair. And then Ty, real quick.
My name's Spencer, and I let Jeremy get to the end. What else was he going to say? He had nothing insignificant to say. It was over. It was over. All right.
And I actually wasn't even going to bring this up as a topic of conversation because, like I said, when we analyze the gameplay on the final episode, it just goes, well, clearly that didn't work because, Mike blah, 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 or, Sandra blah, blah, blah. But Spencer was supposed to be the strategic player, and he is marketed as this great strategic player. And while I think he actually did pretty good early on in the game from saving his butt, the fact that he failed to see the threat of Jeremy and never tried to take him out, I think is going to be a huge kind of like red stamp on his resume. Does anyone want to defend Spencer or agree with me? Now is the time to do it.
I would.
Do you have any opinions? Oh, go ahead, Billy.
Now, I was just gonna say I would defend Spencer in that. With all the talk about Joe being the golden boy, it pretty much threw up enough of a smokescreen that he didn't see something that was in front of him. He was so worried about Stephen Fishback's concern over Joe. Everybody was that Jeremy slipped by. I think if Stephen Fishback didn't have the whale he was hunting, I think we would have heard Jeremy's name come up a little bit more.
Okay, that's fair. Ben, you wanted to say something?
I also think that the other thing that you have to put in perspective is the fact that he had to endure the entire season up until joining up with Tasha and Jeremy, that he was on the bottom, he was playing this middle ground, and that he finally was able to connect on a solid ground with a group of people. And I think that might have distracted him from the end goal.
I think that's fair. And Spencer, because he was on the out so much in his first season, he was probably like, oh my God, this is security. I'm going to latch onto it. I don't care what happens. Kind of playing with that little bit of a primal instinct. Almost. Okay, go ahead, Ty. You want to say something?
Well, let's put it this way. If he doesn't care what happens, that goes against literally everything else he was saying about how this was his second chance to win. And how I just feel like in the end, we were given an edit, which is fine because he made the end. So we're supposed to care about Spencer, so Spencer loves his girlfriend, and Spencer's connecting with people, and this is what I am being spoon-fed until we get to the final tribal council, at which point he says, point blank, I didn't really connect with everybody all that well, so I had to backstab them, which completely blows up what I was supposed to feel about him, which I don't give a crap because I already was going to feel what I felt about, but I'm sure like the people who needed a Venn diagram of how the vote worked and how Keith almost got himself voted out were probably confused at the sudden betrayal of it.
Okay.
And
I'm going to jump to Elise, but real quick.
He's not that good.
You know what? I am defending the Venn diagram because we all followed it because we're all super into Survivor. So we already understood the premise of, people playing the idols and all stuff. And to be frank,
I'm fine with the diagram, but I was just referencing that group of people more so.
And to be frank, the idols keeping you safe from meaning you to talk in the rock vote kind of threw me off. Elise, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't really like Spencer and Tasha at all, but from their takeaway from their season was they were really popular, and if they had made it to the end, they would have won. Like, that's what everyone was saying. Like, if Spencer made it to the end, there's no way Tony would have won. Like, Spencer, Tasha, same thing. So they just thought, hey, we can, as long as we get to the end, we're gonna win. And I don't think they really thought about, hey, we can't beat Jeremy. We're not like the greatest gifts to the Survivor game. We actually have to think about our strategy and who we take to the end.
That's a fair point.
That's actually a very, very fair point. And I'm actually glad you say it because it does provide, a little bit of new light. Okay, so we're talking about Spencer and we're talking about him being blown out at FTC, even though he got this great edit. Last season at FTC, Carolyn received 1 vote along with Will. Even though Carolyn played a monumentally better game than Will, no one would argue that
someone
Will
would.
and Carolyn deserve the same point. They deserve the same placing. So I guess what I'm saying is this. Because it's become acutely apparent that Survivor juries are making up their mind at Ponderosa. Do they need to put the onus upon themselves to apply adequate second and third placers? Because to me, Carolyn receiving the same votes as Will is downright disgusting. And Spencer not receiving a single vote, I understand Jeremy played a way better game. Seems really odd. So does this onus fall on the jury to adequately award second and third place now that we're in this postmodern era of Survivor? Or should they just all vote for who they feel like? Steven, go ahead.
The jury's job is to vote for who they want to win the money. They are under no obligation to assign a second or third placer. It is on the jury to vote for who they want to win. That's that.
But
Yeah, and
this
I
is
will also.
okay. Yeah,
I
and this
will
is what I
also
said. I
say
think
that the
everyone here is going to hate me on this because I think when the winner is as clear cut as what it is, someone in the jury needs to bite the bullet and vote for a second placer. And I know that's kind of like metagame, and I do completely understand why people think, and I mean, that is their job. You are right, that is their job to vote for a winner. But still, at this stage in the game, Carolyn tying with Will, Spencer not receiving a 0 vote, that's interesting. Go ahead, Billy, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, the only time we ever saw someone care about giving a second place was actually at Redemption Island, where Philip Shepard, the specialist, got basically a second place vote for playing for second place. So if you're playing for second place and somebody on the jury knows it, I think you'll get it. But if you're playing to win, or at least you're claiming that you're playing to win, and you're telling the people to vote for you for win, then you're not going to get a second place vote because you'll vote for the person who won. So I think that's what the case here. There was no Philip Shepard this season.
Well, and we're bringing up some kind of Survivor history in our little Skype chat box, which is that Reed and Survivor San Juan del Sur voted for Jacqueline just to make damn sure she would get second place and Missy would get third place. And then we also have Vetus voting for Monica in Survivor Blood versus Water to make sure she gets second place. So, the question is, should juries have this attitude of they should assign a second place if the vote's not going to be close? Because frankly, I don't know if we're ever going to see another close vote again. Because I thought we were going to see a close vote tonight, and we didn't. So everyone here, Ben, go ahead.
I'm overruling your question and asking another one.
Okay.
Would we prefer having Ponderosa? This isn't what CBS wants. This is what the viewers want. Ponderosa, or do we prefer having jury that doesn't contact with one another so they're not confiding in one another about who they're preparing to vote with? Because I think that also had an impact tonight.
Okay. So that's a very good question. I'm going to ask everyone about the Ponderosa question, and I'm also going to ask about, my kind of jury second placer. The only thing I have to say is this. Because players now know that everyone talks at Ponderosa, that should be part of your game. But Billy just pointed out something really important. Billy, want to go ahead and point that out?
Yeah, just that it was great editing that made it look close tonight. I don't think it was ever that close. But I don't think CBS wants to have the ending of their season not in doubt going into the final vote. They wanted to make it look like it's in doubt. So close vote in the future, I think it'll still happen. I just don't think that that this season.
It will happen when me and you are at final two, right?
Oh yeah, I'll win by a vote when I offer up like free beer. I'll be like concert tickets and free beer for everybody that votes for me.
You heard it here
Alicia,
first.
you want to say something? Alicia, and also comment on Ponderosa and the jury voting for second place as well. But you wanted to say something real quick.
Yeah, so I might be in the total minority on this podcast right now. I don't think
I believe you.
editing...
Oh, wait, no, you're not the only minority because we have Billy Garcia here. Anyways, continue.
Yes.
Yes.
What's my pride?
Team burrito.
Did you say team
Proud
potato?
member.
I can cook up with potato.
No.
Okay, Team Burrito, go ahead.
I am.
So I actually didn't think the editing made the vote look close at all. I thought the editing made it look like a total sweep in the opposite direction. I was like, the whole time I was like, oh my God, Jeremy is blowing it. He is losing it. He's not answering questions.
What?
What the fuck is he doing? Spencer is killing it. I thought Spencer was going to take the game.
Okay.
I was so convinced.
Like literally,
The
it was just
actions
like,
from
I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
Boom.
Did you think Ozzy was going to win too?
I will defend that. With specific examples.
You will not defend Ozzy when Billy Garcia is here. Okay. Okay. You will not defend Ozzy while Billy Garcia is here. That goes against podcast rules. Anyways, Alicia, I want to give you some. Everyone here right now and listeners, you don't see it. We all have these huge reactions to what Alicia just said about the edit clearly favoring Spencer. We all clearly disagree with you, but I want to give you some more time just to talk about why you thought the edit favored Spencer. Because let's face it, you're the most casual one of us here, so go ahead.
Great. So Jeremy responding to Savage's question, Savage was looking for humility. Jeremy answered like very aggressively. I think it was Savage's question. I don't know. It was some question where Jeremy needed to be like, oh, I did this and I'm sorry about it. But there was no apology. It was just, oh, it was about Kimmy. He was like, yeah, I was upset about Kimmy, and so that's how I reacted. That was it. There was no like, oh, but I realized in retrospect that, that was a bad decision, and so, hey, Kimmy, I'm sorry. There was no, like, remorse. So that was bad. And then he didn't even answer the question about what his second chance was. Your second chance being that you have a family it's not an answer. Like, you had a family the first time around, and your family was there with you on your season the first time around. So
that's very fair. And I actually have a thesis, another Survivor thesis to get to. But I'm going to jump to Steven and Ty and Alex, and we're going to be very succinct with this, and then we're going to move on. Okay, Steven, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it was brought up a bit earlier, but Spencer at that final tribal was a walking contradiction. His whole claiming his second chance story was, I've changed and I have feelings, but then he answers, a bit later, oh, I didn't have these close relationships, which is why I had to play the middle and backstab. I think when you are a walking contradiction like that, the jury doesn't take well to that. And I think, I will say Tasha didn't give as bad of a final tribal as I thought. It certainly wasn't anything great, but,
Okay, so Ty, go ahead, and then Alex.
My thing is just a question. to Alicia.
Okay.
So you're saying that when he brought up that his second chance was to provide for his family, and oh, by the way, my wife's pregnant, and this is a big thing, did you not know that he was about to win at that point? Did you really
It didn't
think he
even
was
make fucking
losing?
sense. It wasn't an answer.
He
to
talked
it.
about his pregnant wife
It
who
was
he
like, oh,
loves
how can
with
I
a bunch of
work this
emotional
when I'm
people.
gonna have a
Emotional
baby,
people
so
who
I
want to
just-
feel validated because they're on television. It was over. The moment he brought up his pregnant wife,
Okay.
dropping
Hold on.
that bomb that he hid the entire time,
Okay.
it
Wanting an
was
answer that's
over.
relevant
Oh
Alex,
my
to the
goodness. Oh my goodness.
question that
I feel
was
like Jerry's
asked,
finger right now.
because it made
I'm
no
pushing you back
fucking
into your corner.
sense.
it doesn't have to make
Okay, here's
sense.
what
It's
I'm-
OTTP.
hold on.
OTTP never makes sense.
Okay, guys.
But it's P
So,
zone.
Alicia, you are kind of correct in the sense that it didn't actually answer the question. But Ty has the more valid point because the music changed and it was all sympathetic. So that
It was
painted the
over.
picture. Yeah,
It was
but,
over.
I mean, Alicia, that's true. He didn't answer the question, but that's going to be my thesis. Alex, go ahead real quick.
So yeah, as I pointed out in the chat, the music changed. He had winning music come on, and the whole thing was that I was scared because I'm not a Spencer fan. So coming in, I was scared that because typically the Journey player think like Lisa Whelchel, or Stephen Fishback, where the thing they say they get out of it is that they changed and not that they won. So, but the thing is that the whole second chance theme is about change. And so I'm like, wait a second, could he actually win? Because that would be awful. and then as soon as Jeremy framed the family thing as a second chance thing, I'm like, okay, he wins. Because the framing was like, so it needed to fit into the second chance theme, and he made it fit like a square peg in a round hole, but it jammed it in there.
It didn't. It didn't.
So-
It didn't answer the question whatsoever, and in fact, it kind of contradicted it. I made.
And nobody
that's a good
gave a
point.
And
fuck.
yet the music changed.
Yeah, no one cared, and I think that's a bigger point. Now, this is my next Survivor thesis. Real quick, we're gonna take a history lesson, not even on Survivor. We're gonna talk about something that happened a long time ago, and I wonder how people are gonna make this
Galaxy
connection.
far,
Ty,
far away.
yeah, Ty, he might figure this out real quick. Billy might as well. When Kennedy ran against Nixon, all the people that heard the radio debate said Nixon won. All the people that saw it on TV said Kennedy won.
Absolutely.
What that showed was that people didn't really care about the issues. What it showed was that the American public really only cares about, how people look and how they feel. But besides that one iconic debate, most political pundits do agree that debates actually don't really matter in the long run. Every once in a while, they do reference what happens, or they do, illustrate what happens. And I feel like this is the same thing with Final Tribal Council. Mike gave a horrible Final Tribal Council performance. He still won. Let's think back to Survivor Philippines. Lisa Whelchel gave an extremely strong Final Tribal Council along with Michael Skupin. Final Tribal Councils, besides, let's think, Todd, they don't really matter that much. I'm saying it right now. All right, I opened up that can of worms. Let's discuss it. Final Tribal Councils don't matter that much.
Okay, his historical reference, George W. Bush is the only candidate to ever lose and still be president twice. The second, we'll never get that on
Technically, Bush
Survivor.
won the second time. Technically, Bush won legitimately the second time. So.
No, but I'm gonna pull that off on Survivor. I'm gonna get voted out and still get the million.
Redemption Island, baby.
Redemption Island. But
Thank God for
technically,
Sophie
no,
Clark.
you know what? Rupert beat me to the punch. Damn it. But but no, going back to what you're saying, Richard Hatch, I think the speech mattered. But I think
Yes.
it was too
Formative
obvious.
years.
Actually, hold on. Billy, what you just said was Richard Hatch, FTC mattered, and it did. But if you listen to a lot of what people said, Sue Hawk's speech actually drove people to vote for Kelly. And that's what I think we're going to be getting at is some FTCs really matter, but most of them don't. But anyways, go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it's a mixed bag. You could point out seasons where it didn't matter. You could point out seasons where it did. You could point out seasons where it made it closer than it was, and other seasons where it made it more further apart than it was. So it's a mixed bag. I don't think you could look at one way or the other. I don't think it's a black and white issue.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying is for it may have mattered in 2 or 3 seasons, but I think in most seasons it doesn't matter. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about this more. Anyone can
Can I
jump in.
make a point?
Go ahead.
Can I make
Elise.
a point? I think I kind of see the final tribal councils as like the final exam where like you have all the rest of the season that kind of builds up to it, and if you do like play an amazing game throughout the entire season, you get to final tribal council, you could bomb it and it probably won't matter that much. But you could be like on the fence the entire season, and then a great final tribal council speech could make a huge difference. So it does matter, but not in any case. Depends on how you did the rest of the season as well. It all just kind of comes together. It's worth
Okay,
like
and then
30% of your mark.
I like that. I like that assessment. It's worth, Okay, Ben, you want to say something real quick?
I'm just going to focus on this season and the impact of Final Tribal Council. And just say how, like, I think we talked about this topic in the past, like, in preparation for tonight, how, like, this may be different this season because this is the second chance season. This is where they may actually focus on gameplay. And they did. But the way that the edit looked, it was just like, yeah, we're voting for Jeremy because he knocked Val up. Like, that is the message that I got, was that it wasn't about anything doing about having the best representation of a player as much as having somebody that's a family man win.
And that's a good point. Ty, I want to jump to you, and then we're going to talk about Jeremy as a whole. Go ahead, Ty.
I mean, as a game bot, when I've played in orgs, I will fully admit that my game would 9 times out of 10 more resemble Spencer's, making all sorts of strategic moves and not being middle of the road positive, which is what Jeremy ended up being. That being said, perception is reality, and Jeremy was pleasant and nice, and people liked him, and people respected him, and he was calm-ish compared to like Fishback, who was a crazy person by the time he was voted out. It's up to other people to get rid of people who are nice and who appear strong and who appear in a central role within the closest thing we could call an alliance over the course of the season. I mean, I'm not in any way a Jeremy fan. I did not really want him back. I had a half dozen other people who I was more excited to see back, and he happened to be there. And I thought entering the season that he was Russell Swan without hair. But, I think he played better than Spencer, and I wouldn't say that just because that was the cue for all of us that have watched editing to know that he was going to win, that, oh, by the way, I knocked my wife up. But he played a strong game. I don't think his game just imbalanced.
And that goes on to my next point, which is let's take off, our lens of, oh my god, this finale just happened, and let's do our best to look at this from a Survivor historical standpoint. Where would Jeremy rank among winners? Is he a Fabio, or is he, a Tony? Where are we going to put him on the specter? Because I think...
Is Tony the best winner? Is that really not rare?
But he was a good winner. I don't know. Personally, I think the best winner is Denise, but that's a whole other conversation we're not even going to get into.
Fair enough.
I love Denise.
Yes, but like I said, we're going to get into that later. That's a different podcast. Billy, you're welcome to join us when we rank all the winners. But where are we going to rank Jeremy in terms of, overall winners? Because I think he played a good game, but I also think he was lucky enough to not really go to, he didn't go to Tribal Council to emerge, and all the twists and stuff took out all of his enemies. Alex, you're going to go first because you're the one that's, shaking.
All right. And the reason I was shaking was simply because you had mentioned Tony, and so I just had to make a joke saying top 5, baby, because I really thought he, like he had a very dominant win, not just in the jury votes, but in the way that he was able to maneuver through things, and he was able to do that.
But how much of his maneuvering was him? I mean, the edit's going to paint it that it was all him, or how much of it was luck? Because when they idled out Savage,
well, it's 80%. Yeah. It's 65% luck for every winner. Okay. For everyone.
Sure.
I don't know. I think some winners are more lucky than the others. I mean, Denise survived every single tribal council. Just saying. Okay.
Okay,
Ty, go
so
ahead.
I'm saying at least 65%.
All right. Ty, go
I
ahead.
have him
Where
somewhere
would
in
you
the
put
middle. He's
Yeah.
certainly smarter than Fabio, who God only knows. God only knows to this day how that happened. But he's not an all-time great. He's certainly not Hatch. He's certainly not Earl. Like comparative to Earl, who seemed to have control of everything assertively, as opposed to like things kind of falling more his way. Just thinking in terms of like people who have swept shirts. Like I would rank Earl as having more control than say like I would probably put him with JT. Like JT was a fine winner. Everybody liked JT. JT may have been helped by the fact that he had the wizard to his warrior or whatever the case may be. But I would probably put Jeremy in somewhere in that range, in the middle.
And I think it's a fair place to put him. And
Acceptable.
Steven, let's go ahead and let's jump to you. Where would you rank Jeremy?
For me, Jeremy, yeah, I'd say upper middle tier. In terms of personal preference, I'd say he's like upper tier as well. I thought he played a really good game, and I think that the fact that he was so, I guess, plainly a threat, and no one was willing to take him out. I mean, I think it shows that he was the one with the strong relationships, which is what you need. So I thought he was a pretty good winner. Yeah.
I feel like he did play a good game, but like I said, I think a lot of stuff fell his way. So I would actually put him as lower middle tier. But anyways, go ahead, Billy. I want to hear from you.
All right, yeah, I was just gonna say, since we brought up Earl and JT, I would put him I would put those two guys above Jeremy, but I would put like Jen Maraska below Jeremy. Jen Maraska kind of just played at the very, very end. Same thing with Natalie White. They just played like one or two moves. I think Jeremy did more than that. But yeah, I would say of the unanimous winners, I would say Jeremy would be like the bottom ranked unanimous winner.
Okay, and Alex, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, part of the reason why I would rank Jeremy so high is that, people like Spencer were smart enough to spot Abby and Keith as potential goats. Jeremy was smart enough to spot Spencer and Tasha as goats.
Very fair. That is a very fair point. Okay, Steven, and you want to chime in on this debate as well.
I was just going to say real quick that I think that a winner not necessarily having to make as many moves is pretty impressive in itself, because it means they put themselves in a situation where they didn't really need to change anything because they were in a good position the whole way through. So I think you also can look at that as another sort of metric for grading a winner, in that they didn't have to make moves because they put themselves in that good of a position to begin with.
Very fair point. Anyways, I believe we are going to jump to you. Alicia, what did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to talk about, I guess, Jeremy / Final Tribal Council. Obviously Jeremy played a fantastic game and definitely deserves to be the winner of this season, and I think he's a good winner for this season. I was just a little disappointed in the Final Tribal Council in that there wasn't overwhelming, like, oh, I can really see from this Final Tribal why they're voting for Jeremy or why they're not voting for, Spencer or Tasha. We didn't get to see a lot of that because the editing was so strange, and so I felt like it was a little anticlimactic and confusing, whereas it could have been wrapped up a lot nicer, I think.
And I agree with that. Anyways, here's the point. Okay, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call.
Billy Bill had a thought. Let him say his thought.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that Kelly Wentworth was probably the one player left at the time that she was eliminated that could probably sit next to anybody that was still there and win. She had made enough moves with the two idol plays and playing from the bottom. I think, in that final six scenario, she could have had any combination of people sitting next to her, and she would have won, which I was hoping for. I was rooting for it.
Me too.
Yeah, same. Elise?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for Kelly Wentworth, she's like against anyone she wins, because I feel like, well, Spencer was like, well, I had to make these moves because I didn't talk to anyone, but then seemed really fake, but Kelly was legitimately on the bottom pretty much the entire game. So it seems on a jury that's so bitter, it seems less personal. It's like, okay, well, she was just doing what she had to survive. She definitely had that underdog story going for her.
Yeah, and do we think that underdog story is enough to seal a complete sweep if she gets to the end and also get the max amount of votes like Jeremy did?
I don't think she gets the max amount of votes, but
Okay.
I would say that she would not have swept like Jeremy to the degree. Like, she had 4 votes on lockdown for sure. She absolutely had Cass. She absolutely had Abby. She absolutely had Keith, and she absolutely had Sierra. I definitely think she had 4. She would have only needed 2 more to win. But I do think she did have some votes that she absolutely would not have gotten. She would not have gotten Savage because Savage probably would have, like, if you swap out Spencer and Wentworth, I feel pretty likely that somebody like Savage would have probably still voted for Jeremy or Tasha because Ponderosa showed that he had a good relationship with Tasha. I don't think she would have swept, but I do feel like she could have gotten like the 2 more votes that she needed probably to win
Okay,
because she
I
was
can see
definitely
that.
the underdog.
I can definitely see that. And I think she was a really great addition to the Second Chances cast. I was a little bit apprehensive about it at first, but I think she played a really strong game and brought
Absolutely.
a lot to the whole season. And so, speaking of that, who are some of these players on this season that we think could actually be deemed worthy to return for a third season because they were just so fantastic? Is there anyone that we think needs to kind of three-peat?
Yeah,
Colin?
I agree with Colin that Jeff Varner would probably be the number one choice.
Varner.
Yeah, he probably.
I'm gonna throw Kimmy Kappenberg's hat into the ring because I'm too
Because you're
optimistic.
obsessed with hacks.
Well, she had a journey. She was the loud young girl, and now she's the matured older woman who's like trying to do this for her kids, and it's just a great journey. And you know what? She can complete her arc hopefully and win like she deserves. So
Thanks, Stephen.
I know I'm wrong,
Surprising
Colin,
coming from
but,
you. All right,
know.
Ben, you want to go ahead and chime in?
I think an obvious one in this situation is Terry, just because he didn't get it like closure to anything.
That's very true.
I want
He
Cass.
deserves
Come
a
back
third
with his
chance.
son Danny,
Blood
once
versus
Danny
water.
is 18
Oh.
and physically sound. That
Yes,
would be great.
that'll definitely occur.
I want Varner and Cass.
Cass will definitely be back because she's dramatic gold whenever she's on. So
She
whether you
is.
love her or you hate her, people
She
care
is.
about Cass.
And
She'll
we
be
finally
back.
started to see a little growth in her before she met her violent end. So maybe we'll continue to see Cass slowly turning into a sweet, kind human being
No
instead of
chance
a
in
chaos
hell.
tornado.
She'll
No
probably
chance
be
in hell.
Chance in hell?
she'll probably be back in like Heroes vs. Villains 5 or something.
Yeah, and Kimmy will be back 15 years from now.
For the all winners season.
We'll see Joe back for sure. Whether we should or not, he'll be back.
Oh my God,
Mhm.
Joe.
Yeah, I
He
could see
is,
that.
after all, the new chocolate bar for Jeff Probst because he is delicious.
Yeah, I
He
could
is
totally
delicious.
see a season where it's like Joe versus Ozzy versus Malcolm.
Oh God, stop it! Stop that right now. That is just disgusting,
Shut
Billy
the
Garcia.
hell up.
I ate today. Ugh.
They could get it to like in Guatemala where there's like that one returning player coming onto the tribe of newbies. Okay.
I would also, I don't know. This may get some backlash. I don't know. I feel like Sierra got a short of stick based off of how her game progressed. I think some of it was her own doing, but I do feel like she is a character that really epitomizes what the second chance is about, and like bringing your all, making big moves. I don't think it's just all huff and puff that of what she does. I do think that she does epitomize that to a certain degree, and I do think it would be a welcome addition on a future season if themed that this way.
All right. Well, before we would ever get to a three-peat kind of season, next season is coming up, season 32 with all newbies, and it looks intense, for some really, really unfortunate reasons. We seem to have all kind of medical evacuations. There's like a helicopter, there's blood, there's just
Right.
crazy shit going on. Does anyone want to jump in and comment on, are they excited about all of the medevacs because they're monsters? Are they worried for the fate of the players like me? What do we think about this possibly highly medical season coming up?
Well,
my-
what I think is that 4 out of the 6 people they previewed are either known to be dicks or came across as dicks. So, like, I'm just not optimistic because I want somebody to root for, and that'll be Debbie and Ty.
Billy?
Yes.
I was just gonna say, my sister pointed out that she saw somebody from Big Brother
Yup.
as one of the players for next season.
Ugh.
That's Caleb.
Beast Mode Rodeo Clown.
All right, yeah,
Beast
yeah.
Mode Cowboy.
Yeah,
So-
for those of you who do not watch Big Brother who listen to this podcast, his entire storyline was that he crushed majorly hard on some girl that had no interest in him, and it was absolutely painful to watch his unrequited love for like a month on end.
Gimmick
And-
infringement.
That doesn't sound like anyone we know.
Uh,
Oh God!
Oh.
yes.
Yeah, I'm suing gimmick infringement. But
Oh my God! Gimmick infringements.
yeah. So this is like Hayden part Dukes, I guess.
10 times worse.
Yeah, 10 times
Okay.
worse.
Hayden's actually
10 times
smart.
worse,
Caleb
yes.
was like, I just want to meet Justin Bieber.
Oh, God.
So we're thinking maybe, you know, if the cast isn't all that fantastic, maybe we don't mind if they're knocked around a little bit. All
I'm
right.
very nervous that the best thing that they had to advertise was the fact that people get dragged off the island. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, let's put it this way. There's a reason that they had this one already taped and they skipped the second chances ahead of time. So, to that end.
I think it was just because I think it was really just because, you know, the hype for second chances was there. I don't think it had anything to do with 32. I think it was the fact that 31 was, you know, the producer's pet and they wanted it to happen sooner because there was that hype.
That's true, but they probably could have also wanted it to happen sooner because it would be good and not a bunch of people getting medevaced, and that's what I have to advertise for my season? Fuck.
That's fair.
This is not good.
I wouldn't mind it, you know, all this medevac, so long as it happens in an exciting way. Like, let's say it was a challenge where, like, you know, it was very physical, and next thing you know, a brawl breaks out, and all these people are laid out. Like, that would be interesting.
I'm picturing maybe a Chet situation
Really
where
want
somebody
some
gets
bar
dragged.
fights on
into
the island.
Oh, I love Chet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
well, I saw the helicopter come in at one point, and he was like, "Evacuation!" And so I was like, "Oh my God, is a hurricane coming? Are they all going to evacuate on that one tiny helicopter to safety?" I don't know.
Oh my God.
I think that would be an exciting.
We have to leave some of you behind.
The true survivor.
Load someone off the
It's
helicopter.
the next level. All right. Well, so Gaga, we're excited what it may or may not bring. We are also really excited as a Torch Snuffers podcast because we will be moving to a video podcast next season. So we will no longer have to tell you viewers, hey, you can't see my face right now, but it's this. You will see us in all of our beautiful or hideous glory.
That's a good thing, theoretically.
So we are excited. We're going to do it through Google Hangout. It's going to be awesome. And so with that, I'd like to give a big thanks to everyone who joined us on this season and especially on this finale episode. Thank you to Colin, my wonderful host. You are beautiful as always. Thank you, Elise, the wonderful Canadian goddess. Thank you,
Thank you.
Alex, for being so knowledgeable and making really excellent points tonight. Stephen, for being the most beautiful person as always. And Ty, for ensuring that we truly had a good evening. Ben, for
Existing.
being
For
you
sitting on your
and
bed.
sitting right next to me in real life. And especially to Billy for not only providing the wonderful insight as usual, but also being hilarious and possibly offering to be my friend if I move to New York City so I don't live alone. So thank you, viewers. We are so excited to see you and have you see us next season. And we will be doing some Rate the Winners podcasts and some other really fun things in the downtime. So be sure to continue to check us out. Thank you, and have a fabulous night and life. And do I just
Bye.